The second item of business of this meeting is to consider the recommendation of the Board of Directors to amend the company's certificate of incorporation. The proposed amendment would add a provision to the certificate of incorporation authorizing the Board of Directors to issue up to 1 million shares of preferred stock in one or more series with such preferences, limitations, and relative rights as the Board of Directors may determine. Now, we discussed this some in the annual report, but I would say, and we'll find out the exact number, but I think we probably had 11 or 12, maybe 12,000 or so shares voted against the proposal, and I think we had a couple thousand shares that abstained. And since there really is no downside to the proposal, that indicated to me that I had not done a very adequate job of explaining the logic of authorizing the preferred. So I'd like to discuss that for a minute now, and I'd also like anybody that would like to ask questions about it. They can do so now. We can talk about it later too, but if you'd like to do it before the vote, that'd be fine. The authorization is just that. It's an authorization. It's not a command to issue shares. It's not a directive. It simply gives the directors of the company the ability, in a situation where it makes sense for the company to issue preferred shares, to do so. Now, when we acquire businesses, and I'll tell you about one when we're through with this in a few minutes. When we acquire businesses, sometimes the seller of the business wants cash. Sometimes they would like common stock, and it's certainly possible, as one potential seller did, wanted in that case a convertible preferred stock. Now, from our standpoint, as long as the value of the consideration that we give equates, we really don't care, aside from a question of tax basis we might obtain. But in other economic respects, we don't care what form of consideration we use, because we will equate the value of cash versus a straight preferred versus a convertible preferred versus common stock, whatever it may be. So if the worry is that we will do something dumb in issuing the preferred stock, that's a perfectly valid worry, but you should worry just as much we'll do something dumb in terms of using cash or the common stock. I mean, if we're going to do something unintelligent, we can do it with a variety of instruments, and we will not get more licentious in our behavior or anything, but simply because we have the preferred stock. And the preferred stock, a preferred stock may offer sellers of a business the chance to do a tax-free exchange with us, and they may not want common stock because they may have an ownership situation where they don't want to run the risks of common stock ownership. And that's why our preferred is flexible as to terms, because we could give those people a straight preferred with a coupon that made it worth par at the time we issued it, and then they would know what their income would be for the next umpteen years, and that may be of paramount interest to them. We could issue them an adjustable rate preferred, which, as money market conditions change, would also change its coupon, and then they would be sure of a constant principal value for the rest of their lifetimes. And one or both of those factors could be more important to one seller or another, so that we simply have more forms of currency available to make acquisitions if we have the ability to issue various forms of preferred. Because a preferred stock, if it's properly structured, allows for the possibility of a tax-free transaction with the seller, and that's important to many sellers. Now, in the end, many sellers will prefer cash just as in the past, and probably most of the sellers that don't want cash will want common stock. But we will have a preferred stock available. We're only authorizing 1 million shares because under Delaware law, there's an annual, I think there's an annual fee. I know there's an initial fee, and I think there's an annual fee that relates to the amount of shares authorized. So if we authorized 100 million shares, we would be paying a larger annual fee, which is something Mr. Munger wouldn't let me do. So what we will do if we issue this, we will issue, undoubtedly, we will issue some sub-shares so that the number of shares for taxation purposes is relatively limited, but that we will issue sub-shares to make it easier to make change, essentially, in the market. We may issue, if the occasion demands, we may issue convertible preferred, but that convertible preferred would not be worth any more at the time we issue it than a straight preferred. We would adjust in terms of the coupon and the conversion price and so on. So we can equate various forms of currency to fit the desires of the seller of the business, and this is simply one more tool to do it. There's no downside, like I say, unless we do something stupid. And if we do something stupid with this, we would do something stupid with cash or whatever. So we probably should have done this some time ago, but we never had a case of a seller wanting that form of currency before, and so it just and we always felt we could get it authorized promptly, but there's no reason to lose a couple of months if a transaction is pending to call a meeting to get this on the books. So it's simply one more tool, and if there anybody that has any questions or comments on the preferred, like I say, you can hold them till later, but I'd be glad to have them before we have the vote. Do we have any? Yeah, there's a question over there. If you'll wait just a second, we'll get a microphone to you. When you ask questions now or later, if you'll give your name and where you live, I'd appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Dr. Lawrence Wasser. I'm from New York. The question is this: if you want to buy a business